FootyBiteDaily brings you the definitive, no-holds-barred verdict on the January transfer window. We're diving deep into every Premier League club's business, the big arrivals, the painful departures, the missed targets, and what it all means for the rest of the season. Starting with Arsenal. The Gunners had a surprisingly quiet window after Mikel Merino suffered a serious foot injury that ruled him out for at least 2 months. They chased big names like Sandro Tonali and Leon Goretzka, but failed to land either. They also missed out on 18-year-old Scotland striker James Wilson, who ended up joining Tottenham instead. The only incoming player was England under-19 defender Jayden Dixon, signed from Stoke City. On the way out, Oleksandr Zinchenko moved permanently to Ajax for £1.3 million, and young Ethan Nwaneri went on loan to Marseille. Many fans and pundits believe loaning out Nwaneri could prove extremely costly now that Merino is sidelined long-term. Overall, a frustrating window for Arsenal. Minimal reinforcement in a time of need. Next up, Aston Villa. Unlike last year's late drama, Aston Villa avoided any last-minute blockbusters this time. They did bring back Tammy Abraham permanently from Besiktas for £18.3 million, a familiar face returning to add firepower. Douglas Luiz came back on loan from Juventus, Brian Maggio arrived from Metz for £10 million, and Alisson joined from Grêmio for £8.7 million, with a potential £10.5 million in add-ons. Departures included Ivan Gesand on loan to Crystal Palace, Daniel Malin also on loan to Roma, and Finlay Munro heading to Middlesbrough. The window added useful depth up front and in midfield, but it's still unclear just how much stronger Villa really are compared to before. Over to Bournemouth. They stood firm against a massive £62.5 million bid from Manchester City for Antoine Semenyo, but he eventually left after scoring a late winner and even thanking the fans with a full-page newspaper advert. To replace him, Bournemouth moved quickly. Rayan arrived from Vasco da Gama for £24.7 million with a huge €100 million release clause. Alex Toth came from Ferencváros for £10.4 million, Christos Manders joined on loan from Lazio, and veteran goalkeeper Fraser Forster signed as a free agent. A mixed bag, they lost a key attacker but replaced him with ambition and added experience in goal. Brentford kept things simple. Focused on trimming a bloated squad, they made just one signing. 18-year-old forward Kay Furo from Club Brugge for £8.7 million. Outgoings included Frank Onyeka on loan to Coventry, plus Miles Peart-Harris and Paris Magoma departing. A low-key window aimed at squad streamlining rather than big changes. Brighton saw some notable returns. Pascal Gross came back from Borussia Dortmund for £1.8 million and scored straight away, a bargain boost. Matt O'Reilly was recalled early from his loan spell at Marseille. Players heading out included Bryan Gruder on loan to RB Leipzig, Facundo Buonanotte on loan to Leeds, and Diego Coppola on loan to Paris FC. Brighton rejected bids for Lewis Dunk and Yassine Ayari and expect summer interest in Carlos Baleba. A window that strengthened from within while protecting assets. Burnley needed midfield help urgently after Josh Cullen's season-ending injury. They brought in James Ward-Prowse on loan from West Ham, banking on his set-piece expertise and leadership. Out went Hannes Delcroix to Lugano and Manuel Benson to Maccabi Haifa. A targeted move that addressed the biggest gap. Ward-Prowse could prove crucial. Chelsea kept a low profile after Enzo Maresca's departure and Liam Rosenior stepping in. They recalled Mamadou Sarr from Strasbourg on loan to bolster central defence after missing out on Jeremy Jacquet, who joined Liverpool. Interest in Douglas Luiz cooled off. Departures included Raheem Sterling, who was released and is now a free agent, Tyreek George on loan to Everton, and Axel Disasi on loan to West Ham. A quiet window with defensive cover, but questions about long-term planning. Crystal Palace went big. They smashed their club record fee with Jurgen Strand Larsen from Wolves for £43 million, added Brennan Johnson from Tottenham for £35 million, and brought in Ivan Gassand on loan from Aston Villa. Jean-Philippe Mateta stayed after a Milan deal collapsed. They couldn't replace Marc Guéhi, who left for Manchester City for £20 million, and late bids for Dwight McNeil failed. Outgoings also included Roman S. on loan to Coventry. Palace invested heavily in attack, but left a hole at the back. Everton under David Moyes pushed hard despite tight finances. They signed Tyreek George on loan from Chelsea with an option to buy after Jack Grealish's injury. They missed out on Youssef En-Nesyri, who went to Saudi Arabia, and Harry Wilson. Fulham rejected the bid. Remarkably, no players left Everton, a window that added a promising loan without losing anyone. Solid business under constraints. Fulham made one eye-catching addition. Oscar Bobb arrived from Manchester City for £27 million, but they couldn't secure striker Ricardo Pepi or midfield cover after Sasa Lukic's injury. They held on to Harry Wilson despite Everton interest, and questions linger over Marco Silva's contract. Adama Traoré left for West Ham for £2 million. A decent capture, but gaps remain. Leeds added only Facundo Buonanotte on loan from Brighton. Daniel Farke was disappointed and had pushed for more signings. They showed brief interest in Jurgen Strand Larsen and are hoping Dominic Calvert-Lewin stays fit in their relegation fight. Jack Harrison went on loan to Fiorentina. A minimal window that left the manager frustrated. Liverpool landed a major defensive prospect. Jeremy Jacquet joined from Rennes for £60 million, arriving in July as part of a long-term rebuild. They missed out on loans for Lucharel Geertruida, Marc Guéhi, and Antoine Semenyo. Injuries to Connor Bradley, Jeremy Frimpong, and Joe Gomez left them thin at the back, but no players left Liverpool. A significant future investment, though short-term cover was needed. Manchester City spent big once again. Antoine Semenyo arrived from Bournemouth for £62.5 million to boost the attack, and Marc Guéhi came from Crystal Palace for £20 million to solidify defence. Outgoings included Oscar Bobb to Fulham for £27 million, Stefan Ortega to Nottingham Forest for £500,000, and Calvin Phillips on loan to Sheffield United. City reinforced key areas, a strong window. Manchester United had a window to forget. No signings at all, despite Ruben Amorim targeting Ruben Neves, Conor Gallagher, Tyler Adams, and Semenyo early on. Amorim was sacked, interim Michael Carrick won his first games without additions, and only minor loans occurred. Tyrell Malacia stayed due to injury. No incomings, no major outgoings. Stagnation at a tough time. Newcastle brought in nobody despite clear needs at fullback, centre-back, midfield, and attack. Eddie Howe must maximise an injury-hit squad featuring summer additions like Nick Woltermaid, Yoan Wissa, Jacob Ramsey, and Anthony Elanga. Matt Targett wasn't recalled, Sandro Tonali's sale fears persist, and Jamal Lascelles left for Leicester for an undisclosed fee. A frustrating blank window for the Magpies. Nottingham Forest made a few moves. Lorenzo Luca joined on loan from Napoli. They ended the loans of Alexander Zinchenko and Douglas Luiz. Bids for Arne Engels and Hayden Hackney failed. Signings included Luca Netz, Stefan Ortega, and Lorenzo Luca on loan. A modest window with some fresh faces. Sunderland were active. Nilson Angulo arrived from Anderlecht for £17.5 million, Melker Elborg from Malmö for £3 million, and Jocelyn Tarbi from Maccabi Netanya for £3.5 million. Out on loan went Anthony Patterson to Millwall, Dan Neil to Ipswich, and Simon Adingra to Monaco. They kept Lutcherell Geertruida and a shift in players to wing roles. A productive window for squad evolution. Tottenham added quality. Conor Gallagher came from Atletico Madrid for £34.6 million, and Sousa joined from Santos for £13 million. Brennan Johnson went to Crystal Palace for £35 million. Injuries hit hard, and they avoided short-term fixes despite links to Semenyo and Andy Robertson. A balanced window with a profit on one sale. West Ham targeted their attack. Tati Castellanos arrived from Lazio for £25.2 million, Pablo Felipe from Gil Vicente for £18.3 million, Adama Traoré from Fulham for £2 million, and Axel Disasi on loan from Chelsea. Lucas Paquetá forced a move to Flamengo for £36.7 million. Other outgoings, Luis Guilherme to Sporting for £14.2 million, Guido Rodriguez to Valencia on a free, James Ward-Prowse on loan to Burnley, and Nicholas Füllkrug on loan to Milan. A major refresh up front, but significant losses. Finally, at Wolves, they sold Jurgen Strand Larsen to Crystal Palace for £43 million, banking a £25 million profit. Adam Armstrong arrived from Southampton for £7 million, and Angel Gomes joined on loan from Marseille. Out on loan, Fer Lopez to Celta Vigo, Marshall Munetsi to Paris FC, and Kijana Hover to Sheffield United. A bid for Che Adams failed. A profitable sale and smart additions. Wolves arguably came out ahead. That's the full verdict on the January window for the top Premier League clubs. Thanks for watching, and remember, football never sleeps.